Okay, we're rounding off our conversation tonight with Advocate Muzi Sikhakhane. So, a big debate about state capture. So I always say, no, you know, the judiciary is not really captured. It's only the government or the executive. So don't say state capture. Legislature is not really captured, etc. But of course, as the State Capture Commission continues, we see that the picture is not as black and white as we thought. What's your views about whether or not, you know, given our history, the trajectory for the last 25 years, we may have something to worry about in terms of whether or not some in the judiciary are captured? You almost suggested that some may be afraid of the long arm of capital more than they are afraid of what maybe they consider, you know, incompetent government or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, look, people always raise this question. Are judges corrupt? Can judges be corrupt? I don't know, but judges are human beings. And because they are human beings, human nature creeps in, and we must create checks and balances for everyone who is the repository of public power. And so in a way, sometimes bias is unintended, right? It's group bias, it's prejudice, it's your history, it's things you like, your political choices, how you were brought up. And so in a way, I think we need to know that the possibility of capture, of capturing somebody, I don't like this term, because we are politicizing simple things like theft and fraud.
Yeah.
And by calling them state capture, you're creating political groupings. And so the guy who was corrupt 7 years ago, you used to call corrupt, for instance, runs to a different camp that is creating itself as not corrupt, and suddenly you've forgotten about him.
Yeah.
I believe the law must follow a thief, fraudster, and a corrupt
regardless
person.
of where they are sitting in the political fence.
Absolutely, because once you politicize a legal term like theft, you create all of these terms you have of state capture and all of this, you're actually creating hiding places for real thieves who call themselves something else. And so you need to do that with everybody in the legislature, in the judiciary,
And the
executive. All of these people are capable of losing it.
Yeah.
They are capable of being swayed by their own populist thinkings. People tend to think like that in polarized environments. So in a way, I think there should be no holy cows when you're dealing with things like that are treasonous, like corruption. And so you need to create a legal system that can follow it up. I believe that for as long as you do commissions and all of the other things, sometimes you must just arrest the thieves. People you think are thieves, and bring the evidence. And
that could be faster and cheaper than a commission that lasts 2 years.
But you know why it's faster? Because there are people in South Africa, I've always said this, there are people in South Africa, because this crime called corruption is so polarized. There are politicians, I think, even if they raped a 10-year-old, you journalists would investigate the child. Because you've created an impression that this...
Come on, that can be that bad.
I think it is, when you politicize thieving. Because you create an environment where the people we like can't be guilty, and the people we dislike are always guilty. Don't politicize a crime. Call it what it is.
Regardless of where it comes from.
Don't use literary devices that describe things in terms that are not legal, because in that way, I can tell you now, it depends. As a lawyer, I've seen this. It depends on who I represent. And so in a way, we need to create a legal system that has no holy cows. And in that way, even our judges will create a system of judges that are not swayed by political winds in the country.
Do you think judges should stay out of political discourse as part of this tripartite triangle of interdependence?
You know, as I said to you, 50% of being a judge is knowing the law, and anybody can learn the law. The second part is the most difficult, being a good, just human being who has the good capacity for self-reflection and introspection. And the judge is not necessarily someone without biases, because we all do. A judge is an individual, rare individuals. There aren't many. It's not you, it's not me, it's not everyone here. Very, very few human beings have the ability to know, I am biased, and I'm going to confront my bias because I have to make a decision that is fair and just. And I think of the people we have in society, even amongst judges, a very, very small percentage should be there, because it requires rare human beings with rare qualities.
Rare quality.
Of honesty. It's not even skill, because we can all learn a skill. It's the ability to reflect on your conduct and your thinkings, your inner biases, alone in your room, and know that you are biased. And that's what it is. And if you know that you are biased, that the next step as a judge, as any person, what do I do to confront my biases, right? Some biases are good, but you must know you have them.
Yeah.
If you made me a judge, I know myself, for instance, I'm likely to sympathize with the underdog. So I must confront that bias I have in my mind. And if
because sometimes the underdog may be wrong when they come to you, to your court.
So you must know that in court, people you like and people you dislike are all capable of wrongdoing. And your job as a judge and as a lawyer is to be able to distance yourself from that and deal with human beings as they come before you, whether you are a lawyer or a judge, and deal with them. It's difficult for people who are watching out there, because when we're watching out there, you would like me to represent someone you like.
Yeah.
But that's not my job. My job is to represent the downtrodden, the outcasts. There would be no need to be a doctor if you don't want to treat sick people.
Absolutely.
And there's no need to be a lawyer if you think being a lawyer is a popular show, you want to be liked.
Yeah.
Your job, the test for being a lawyer, is the ability to take someone JJ dislikes and everybody else dislikes, and be able not to judge them like a surgeon would if you were sick, and represent them to the best of your
It's
ability.
amazing. You've answered my question. I think between you and Advocate Dalimpofu, you have debunked that myth, numerously, right? In terms of what people can expect and so on. And I think you've shocked the system in a sense. Especially with people who know you and what you stand for otherwise, etc. Same with Dalimpofu. Dalimpofu had to take off his red beret from time to time and represent people in the ANC, for example. Quite interesting there. But would you say that because of the moral depravity that is facing our society, we maybe sometimes have too high expectations of judges who in fact are born of the same society? I think I wouldn't blame the judges. I think it's society, it's our expectations. I think we expect judges and just across the board to make decisions that we like, right? And when they make decisions we don't like, we have a problem. And one of the dangers that we must watch about judges is you must create your law and your judiciary for the worst times in your society. And how do you do that? You do that at the best of times. You create a judiciary and a legal system that can deal with the powerful. One day you may like the president now, and you want him to win all the cases because you like him. And then you create a system that nurses the powerful. Absolutely.
10 years from now, and Idi Amin will emerge.
A bad guy is in charge, and then they take advantage of the conduct you have created.
You'll create a precedent as we have. You create law that supports different people at different times. I'm sure that this year, this country, on the last days of the current president, you may find there will be more inclined to find against him, against the powerful, against other people. You need a system that's more consistent than that for a modern society that can last 100 years.
Final issue, judicial overreach. Has it concerned you? Do you think that we've created a situation where, because maybe the other arms of the law were challenged politically, particularly over the last 20 years, right? The judiciary almost found themselves having to deal with things they shouldn't be dealing with, and so judicial overreach, even the classical definition of it, came to pass a number of times in the last decade.
I think many times. I think many times. And it's not just the judges, it's because they were confronted with political cases brought before them. And as a result, they are forced and tempted to think politically when they shouldn't. And so I think we need to debate this about our system as to what matters should go to court and what matters are political disputes.
Be resolved outside.
Absolutely.
It's issues of self-governance, as you've put it.
Yeah.
Right? But it looks like there's been a lot of temptation to go out of that system and run to the courts. Maybe it's maybe a function of political parties not respecting their own constitutions. And
Well,
people thinking, well, we're in a constitutional democracy, what must I do now?
I think it's because the law has always been the site of struggle. We used it ourselves during the struggle.
Yeah.
But I think we need to be careful about what goes there and why people send matters there. And sometimes this idea that people can send frivolous thing and claim that it's a constitutional issue and they won't pay costs has itself been abused by litigants.
Absolutely.
It's not the judges per se, it's the litigants themselves.
This was fantastic. Thank you so much for making the time to come and talk to us about these things.
Thank you. May I go and sleep?
You can go and sleep now. Don't be angry with me in the morning when you are drowsy, because I'll be asleep until midday.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Wonderful. Up to Case Muzi Sikhakhane, really shedding light in a range of legal issues. I haven't had a conversation like that in a long time, and I hope this will build to many more conversations we'll have to understand the law, to understand the justice system, something that indeed, like everything else in society, requires a lot of change, a lot of transformation, a lot of doing, so that we can all get it right. Let's leave it there for tonight. Until we talk frankly again, may God bless you.